Welcome to Breakthrough SaaS Growth with the Jasons, the podcast where we cut through the noise and share strategies that actually drive customer-led growth. Each week, we bring you straight-talking conversations on adoption, retention, expansion, and everything in between. Let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Breakthrough SaaS Growth with the Jasons, with myself, Jason Noble, here in a not too grey and shabby London. And my partner in crime, Mr. Whitehead. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason.
Today we're going to dig into a topic that I think has really been sitting beneath the surface for quite a while. And a lot of the discussions that we've had, discussions with guests, just the wider industry, has customer success lost its soul? And what do we mean by that? We talk a lot in this profession about empathy, partnership, and trust, but we've slipped along the way over the years into being nice instead of being necessary and thinking about value. We've become problem solvers when customers actually want strategic partners, truth tellers. And I think this isn't just Jason and I talking. We're going to bring a guest in, someone who's lived this from every angle. David Karp's joined us today. Welcome, David. Excited to have you here. David, if you don't know him, he's a seasoned post-sales leader with over 30 years in the industry. He currently works at Disc, where he leads teams responsible for really turning those customer relationships into the real engine of growth. So absolutely the person to talk about this. He wrote an article recently that prompted me to reach out to him about this, but he blends culture, technology in a way that creates momentum, not noise. He's also a mentor for others in the industry, a big believer in how exercise can help you as well. He's a big runner. We had a good chat about that on the intro. And I think he's also really focused on bringing that conviction to help himself, his customers, and others really turn those challenges into tomorrow's success stories. Welcome, David. Really excited to have you here.
Jason, thanks so much. I appreciate the invitation from each of you. I was feeling pretty good until you said partners in crime, and hopefully the crime is not me joining you. So thrilled to be here.
Excellent. I think that's something that I introduced along the way, and we just kept it going.
All right, we'll do my best not to make this a crime. So
we'll see how we do. As I said, that article you wrote, I think is really, the timing is perfect, because there are a lot of people struggling with what it is. You know, we did an episode recently about has it lost its identity? And it's the same thing, what should it be looking at? Let me kick off a question to you, David. I mean, when you put the article together, what moment or pattern kind of actually made you think, actually, I need to write about this and there is something here?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. And maybe Jason, it's an accumulation of things that finally got to a place in my mind where what I really was experiencing from customer success professionals, who are some of the best intended, smartest people in industry, was a bit of a focus on our own frustrations and our own sense of the work that we're doing and whether or not it matters to people, versus where customer success started, which was all about creating impact for customers. It's really never about us, right? It was about the customers and how we are helping make sure they get impact and value from a big decision they made to work with our companies. And that was the incredible North Star that we got to take on behalf of our companies. And somehow over time, it turned into us fighting for our own positioning and trying to be liked and trying to be a bunch of things versus focusing on the core of what got us into the opportunity that we all have today. And I think it was just accumulation of a lot of those kind of conversations that probably is what spurred me to kind of be a little vocal about it.
Do you see in kind of the industry today, in your dealings with customers, with other professionals globally, where do you see this kind of people being nice over necessary? Are there any places you see that playing out most? Or is it more general?
Look, I think I definitely see it. I'll say this. I think I see it mostly when we're actually interacting with customers and trying to understand if we're being successful. As we've continued to struggle internally with who we are and are we valuable, most people want some kind of validation, some kind of feedback. I'm doing fine. My work is good. I feel valued. And so sometimes that drives us to be nice to customers, because what's people's typical reaction when you're nice is they'll be nice back. And I think rather than the place where we need to be boldest, where we need to be most direct, where customers are counting on us telling them the story, sometimes we're just being nice. So that is
Right.
probably the place I see it the most. Can I give you a second answer to that as
Absolutely.
well?
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think quite often that because we are doing work that's client facing, and it's not easy work. I always equate it to riding a roller coaster versus riding a
Yep.
merry-go-round. And some people don't want to ride roller coasters. They want to ride merry-go-rounds, and that's really okay. It's really okay. But sometimes we're too nice to each other, right? The work that we do is really important. It's also not easy. We carry the trust of our organizations to be the face of the company and the product to the customer. And so sometimes that means we have to have hard conversations internally and hard conversations with each other. There's a lot of people that I've worked with that are amazing people, really smart, incredibly talented, lap me many, many times around
Yep.
the intellect and capability race, but they're not a fit for this kind of work. And we don't want to say that to anybody. Sometimes the best answer is let's help you find something else to do so you can thrive.
Yep.
Anyway, so those are two places where I think we're just too nice.
I like that a lot. I often think about it. A lot of customer success is people come in, like you say, wanting to be a cheerleader and be nice, but the issue is here you're dealing with addict behavior. People are addicted to their current ways of working. They're addicted to their other ways to do this. And if you have a drug addict, sometimes you got to help them realize that this is not going to work. Or if someone's addicted to other poor behaviors, so how do you help them and take a different approach? And sometimes they need to lean on your strength. And if you're too busy being nice, you're just not gonna get it there. Um, you know, are there particular behaviors that you observe with folks that you say, this is how I'm going to coach you out of it? This is how I see you being nice when you need to be strong, tough, direct, honest, whatever it needs to be, so people can recognize that in real time.
Yeah, I think some people are really good at starting with the other person's need and point of view in mind, but I don't think that's natural for most people. And so the first thing that I find myself coaching people on is to take a step back and think about the other person's point of view. What do they really need? What are they really trying to accomplish? What are the things that it takes for them to be successful? And so if you start there and you understand it, I can be kind. I can be, I can have someone else's best interest in mind, and have to show up sometimes being tough-minded and saying tough things to help them get where they need to go,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's uncomfortable for me. A lot of times when I'm being nice, it's because it's more comfortable for me and I'm not thinking about what the other person needs. And so I tend to say, and by the way, it's got multiplying benefits other than just not always being nice. If you
Yeah.
start with the other person's need in mind, you'll probably show up a little differently, both internally and externally. And that's the first place I find myself starting. Is usually if you're being nice, it's because you're starting with your own need to be liked, your own need to feel safe, than you are with what
Yep.
the other person really needs.
I think there's a fascinating different words and terminology, because there is being nice and just that being overly friendly, nice, always saying yes. I see being kind as something very different, because you can be kind to help people. But there's a fascinating use of terminology. In your article, David, you talked about kind of empathy and accountability, and you drew a line between them. What does healthy accountability look like in a vendor customer relationship, supplier customer relationship?
Yeah. Look, I think accountability um, is a really powerful tool, a powerful concept when it's shared, and when it's not misplaced. And
Mhm.
so by that, I mean, I always believe that all of a company's inefficiencies leak towards the customer. Every bit of misalignment, bad expectations, promises that we don't keep are company inefficiencies, challenges, and they just show up in the face of a customer. And so what you have in customer success is people that are charged with helping resolve all that. And so
Yep.
there's a sense of ownership that you have, but you are standing up and accountable to the company in bringing all of that dysfunction back and what the impact is for the customer. In the end, the company is responsible for keeping the promises it makes. And so the healthy relationship to me is I'm not here to solve all your problems. I'm here to make sure I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I understand what barriers might be in your way. And I am going to be the person who's going to help the company do the work to help solve your problems. As long as those are things that we can realistically do and we've agreed are things we can do. I've seen customers at times demand things that if I'm
Mhm.
trying to be nice and I'm trying to solve every problem, I'll try to figure it out for them. But there's accountability for that customer as well, right? I'm not here just to
Yep.
I want to make their lives easier, but I want to make it easier in the context of what we've agreed we're going to do together. And so just, a real quick story. I was doing work years and years ago with a very senior executive at a company much larger than the company I was working for. And we were working on an issue that was really, really important to that person. And the timing of it was important to that person, but important to me as well. I had made a commitment to our company. We'd get this deal closed. We had development resources lined up around it. But I built shared accountability with that customer, and we agreed together early on. Here's the steps we have to go through as companies to accomplish this thing at a certain point in time. And we agreed we were going to own it. And what I'll never forget is because we did that work together, that senior executive went and spent the entire day in their CFO's executive suite to get that contract signed on the
Mhm.
last day because they said, if I'm not down there, I'll miss it. And we agreed we were going to do this together. And because you've held up your end of the bargain, I'm holding up mine. And they put aside
Wow.
everything else they had to do and went and sat down in that office to get that done. And that to me was because we built that shared accountability. We were direct with each other. We had each other's best interest in mind. And I've got other stories like that. And you can have those
Mhm.
conversations with people if you understand what matters to them and you let them know what matters to you.
I really like that. And I've said for years, there's kindness and clarity, and sometimes some people misinterpret that as is not nice or everything else, but also like, oh, this is going to be a difficult conversation. There doesn't have to be a difficult conversation if you're comfortable having a direct conversation and just sort of putting it all out there. And I've done that with coworkers and employees. I've done it with clients as well too. Like, here's where we are and here's what it's going to take to make it happen. Do we want to invest the energy? Do we want to invest the time to do this? Are you prepared to do what's necessary? And some folks are not. But great, we know this right up front. And I think, especially I find with some more junior CSMs when they're talking people at the customer side who are up a few levels, many of the ones I've experienced are not comfortable just being honest and direct with that. And many times,
Right.
like, I don't have the experience. I don't know. I'm making this up. So they have imposter syndrome all the way through. I'm curious to see your take on that and if you've seen similar things.
Absolutely. I remember working with someone who was in their 50s, very senior person at a company, and I happened to turn 29 while I was leading
Mhm.
a big project, and I was petrified for them to know how old I was. Like when it was my birthday, I didn't want anybody to
Yep.
tell them how old I was. And they found out and they were like, and they celebrated with me. And I was embarrassed, like, you probably don't take me seriously
Mhm.
anymore because I never would have guessed your age because of how you show up. And the reality is typically the more senior a customer is, the more they want straight talk, they want truth,
Yes.
they want transparency. And I would love to help less experienced people understand your path to credibility is clarity. It is okay to say, I don't
Mhm.
know. I'm going to find out, but let me make sure I
Right.
understand I'm solving the right problem for you. And I'm not sure I quite understand. Let me make sure. And when you do that,
Mhm.
you can be bold, you can be clear, you can have direct conversations with senior people because that's what they will value.
Yeah.
And I think anybody's going to have some level of uncertainty about am I capable, am I credible?
Sure.
But man, sharp people that are shooting for a win for the other person. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, you can do it.
Yeah, and I think there's something, people have different experiences to it, and like I say, senior folks, give me the information and don't waste my time. Let me weigh the evidence and form it up. But if
Correct.
it's someone like a tech person, like you have deep expertise in this technology, to say I'm going to listen to you because I know I don't have it. If I'm talking to a 29-year-old doctor, I'm going to listen to you because you probably know more than I do. So I think a lot of folks in customer success don't realize that they may have expertise that the senior people are relying on and need. And if you don't show up and bring that expertise and do it in a way that they can hear it in the time in which they have to hear it, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah, that's right. And that's, I think where that's, you get back to what we're really trying to do, like the real clarion call for customer success. And where we always try to say it's not a department, it's a mindset, it's a strategy, and all those things are true. But I
Mm-hmm.
think when you feel under attack, you start to fall back to I'm in preservation mode. And interestingly enough, if you look at the average CSM and just think how many accounts they work with, of course they're going to be pressed for time. But let's say
Yep.
they happen to see 20, 30, 50 accounts. Do you know how many times that senior executive has seen instances of use of your product? Once, their own,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
You've seen it 30, you've seen it all these times. You can come to them with credibility, with ideas, with examples, because that's what they want to know. And so you will be the expert in the room, not in their business, and don't try to be.
Right.
Get that from them, but you're the one who can best connect
Yeah.
what your product is capable of doing, what the needs they have. You just have to be relentless about understanding what those needs are.
I love that because it is you're you're an expert, but in a different view of the word. You're that
Yeah.
connecting things is why you're there. You know what works. You know how other similar customers have got the outcomes of value they want. You know what this customer's like. How do you join the dots for them? How do you guide them through that path to get to the right place?
Yeah, I remember a meeting, Corey Berry, he's still a CEO at Best Buy. She was leading finance for them, and she's incredible, just an incredible leader. And we came rolling in for a meeting with Corey Berry. We were doing a lot of work for them, and we thought we understood. We had dug into their business, we knew everything, and we came
Mhm.
in, and she was so gracious, but she was kind of like nice try, gentlemen. That's actually not how things work. Would you like me to walk you through it? And because we had established so much credibility with how much we knew about our product and how it helped other people, she was willing to reset our understanding of their business so we could then reattach it back to what she was trying to do.
Wow.
And it was just a great reminder of I want to understand their business and I need to be open and willing to learn.
Yeah.
They're not expecting me to know it like they do, but they are counting on me knowing how my product can solve problems for them. And so I have to find that balance, but I'm gonna see our product in action so many more times than they will, and they're counting on me figuring that out.
What do we need to do in customer success then? So if we go back to, your have we lost the soul of customer success? What's the shift that's needed? And are we making the shift or is the problem getting worse?
Um, I think we're living in two different worlds, Jason. Because I think at least uh, there's a narrative. It's at least a narrative that customer success is under attack, that people are
Mhm.
dismantling customer success programs, that they're not valued anymore. If you don't own revenue, I've said it like owning revenue is something you should be willing to do. So we're fighting for survival. And I think anytime you're fighting for yourself, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And so I think because that's a narrative, there's a lot of conversation about it. And it's certainly true in pockets. And I know people that have been impacted by that. But the bottom line is there's never been a better time to be in a customer success role because of the global understanding of the value of customer relationships as an engine for growth. And so I also see, as much as I see that self narrative of it's not fair, we're under attack, people don't
Mhm.
appreciate us. when we make it about, nobody knows more about what customers really need to be successful than people that do customer success kind of work, because it's the work we've been doing. So if I stop, where we're able to stop making it about ourselves and making it about understanding the customer and helping the company line up with at the best way possible, when we're doing that work, we win all day. We're irreplaceable. And I think we're living in those two worlds. And so I'm seeing people, their impact is increasing because they're leading the narrative inside of their company about what is really creating growth with customers. That is like, you've never had a better voice at the table, but that's because we're helping the whole company reframe and reshape around what is that value for a customer that we uniquely bring. It's when we focus on ourselves. So we're living in both worlds, Jason, and I'm seeing where we get it right. Man, it's powerful because everyone's looking at us saying, what can you do? We need help. And that there's such an opportunity to mine customers and let their value be our value and our growth. And so I think we're living in both worlds right now.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. And I mean, this whole conversation's been really interesting for me of needing to be more direct and advocating for the customer, but not being for ourselves as much. For the people that are listening to this podcast, I'm very curious to see, what advice would you have for the leaders out there to say, this is what you need to do differently? And it could be a customer success leader. It could be a CEO, it could be a head of sales, whoever it needs to be, who in an entire SaaS organization needs to be approaching things a little bit differently to get a better result.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Jason. I don't know if I don't think I'd love to give you the formula, CEO plus CFO minus whatever equals.
Times 6. Yeah.
I'm sure pi is in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure if you put pi in the formula, it'll work out. But look, I think the definition of customer success, quite often, and I've talked to so many amazing customer success leaders, and if you ask them what they're responsible for, it varies widely. And quite often it's because every company's go-to-market strategy is a little different.
Yep.
Their natural strengths along that customer journey as articulated by the go-to-market strategy is different. And quite often where CS has kind of grown is in the next things that don't exist somewhere else. So, we've said quite often we're glue, we do the things other people don't want to do. I don't know if that's 100% true or fair, but it's kind of natural. And usually wherever you draw a line in your go-to-market and say, this is where we don't want sales investing time. This is what we don't want to ask right? That's where it looks. So I think if you step back and say, let's look at our go-to-market. So this is a CEO imperative. What is our go-to-market today and over time that's going to allow us to win and grow? And I think CEOs and boards, that's a lot of the conversation. How are we going to win and grow, and where are we going to place bets? And what are we going to count on as far as delivering value and driving growth from existing customers versus where do we want to break into new markets, new segments, go deeper in our existing ICP? And once you get clear on how you're going to create this incredible flywheel of value and growth from customers, it's how do we go do that? Okay, inside of a go-to-market organization, if it's a head of sales, a CRO, where should you be spending your time? Where does product start and end? And how do you create a customer-facing motion that makes sure that customers are getting value quickly and often and over time, and that you're translating that into even more growth for the company? And that lets you figure out, what do we need from customer success professionals? Like, do we need time to value, right? It's the saying, it's always true. Is it time to first value? Is it time to multiple value? Is it going to happen through implementation and services? Is it going to happen through onboarding? You got to figure all that out. And where do I go apply expertise to make that happen? That's, I think, critical. And then when you get down to that revenue, it's how do I create intense focus on all the places where revenue gets realized and retained? And quite often that can sit in a customer success motion if you've got the musculature to do it and the experience, and you've got a way of partnering. But it depends. I've worked in a go-to-market motion where it was very much land and expand. And so you went in quickly. You needed a heavy sales presence to build on that initial promise and extend it.
Mhm.
And to ask someone in CS to drive that revenue, it was going to be jarring for the customer. I've seen other places where once you get up and going for a year, the best thing you can do, because the value got delivered through the product and through someone in CS helping, let that motion drive the rest of the revenue. So it's that entire leadership team understand your strategy and figure out where you can really take the breadth of CS expertise, which goes from implementation services, onboarding. You can decide if you put support in there, proactive CSM, account management, wherever you want to ask that team to go drive and reinforce and accelerate value for customers, make sure it fits in with the strategy. And I think so it always starts with a strategic conversation, not with some off the shelf definition of what CS is or what a CSM does. Sorry for the long answer, but
No, I think
I get pretty passionate about that
but
particular topic.
that's why you're here. Absolutely. And I think that passion comes across so strongly, which is, this is how we get back to doing what we should be doing. What are some of the, and be as short, long as you want, but what are some of the biggest blockers you're seeing today in your conversations with customer success teams, customer success managers? What are some of the biggest internal blockers from them for working this way? What's stopping people doing it?
Yeah, I'll say two things. Number one is blaming the rest of the company for why we don't feel valuable. The salespeople, they're this way, product is that way. Let's get over ourselves. I'm probably making some people mad right now.
I love
We're in
it.
this together, right? Like we do. Like I don't feel good today, and it's never about me. It's about them. And so let's cut off our index fingers. We're not pointing fingers. We're in this together. And we have the clearest view of customers. And if we decide we're going to use that to drive true alignment across the rest of the organization and rally people to that, we will start to become invaluable and win. But otherwise, if I don't make it about how do I fit in, why aren't I more valued, let me just be more valuable, and that'll translate. So to me, that's number one. Number two is historically, we have either tracked the wrong metrics or we just haven't been able to track the metrics enough. Data wins. If you sit around, if you're at a board, you're in a board conversation, you're sitting around the executive table and you don't have data, you will not get your point across in a conversation. Any good discussion around go-to-market and where we make our investments and how we do the right thing is going to be rooted in data, both data that shows historical trends and data about what you think is true going forward. And so we have just been data paupers, both because we haven't thought, because we've been nice and maybe we haven't thought about hard metrics and been willing to be measured on hard things. And because, quite frankly, a lot of the energy towards business systems has gone towards other things, either tooling and analytics around product and product usage, or pipeline, all the historical metrics that sales use, that we just haven't been able to get our arms around and do a really good job of articulating the data that we can stand on, which tends to relate to value delivered. How quickly is that value delivered? How do I translate in that, connect that into stickiness and growth at not just a user level, but an executive level at a customer? And when you're really good at doing that, you have data to bring to the table. That's a leading metric. We just have to be hard-nosed about it because it's not easy. But by the way, neither is trying to attribute marketing, right? Marketing to sales pipeline, or how do you attribute the right kind of activity to pipeline development and sales? It's all gross numbers. So we just have to be harder nosed about the metric side of it too, because it's a conversation rooted in data. And if you want to be in the conversation, you better have data to stand on.
I think this has been such a phenomenal conversation, David. Before we kind of come to our breakthrough challenge that we like to go, listeners, how can people get hold of it? If they want to have a chat with you, want to connect with you, what should people do? Because there's a lot of, I follow you a lot on LinkedIn, some amazing articles you've written, but how would someone get in touch with you, and how can you help people?
Yeah. So first of all, it's very kind. I get good feedback on anything I write from my team. They're incredible, and sometimes I'll get a Slack message. All right, what did you really mean? Right? They're amazing.
Are they being
amazing
nice or being honest?
right? Like, what's going on? I love it too. Keeps me mindful, and I've got a couple folks that challenge me all the times on things I say. Um, but like, probably the easiest way is on LinkedIn. Find me out there, connect with me. I love chatting with people. Highlight for me over the last couple of years is I've met more people in person. I've jumped on 30-minute chats with people. I've learned so much from so many people. Let's come and engage. And anything I share tends to be a product of what I've learned from other people. So if I can help somebody through a conversation, I'd love to, because my guess is they'll help me a lot too. Just come find me on LinkedIn. Let's go for it.
I love it. So we want to
Awesome.
give a big thank you to David. An incredible conversation. And if you're not following him already, do follow him, connect with him. There's some great things he's written about, and a great person to talk to about all things customer success related. We, as normal, we want to give a breakthrough challenge for our listeners. And the one for this episode is to have you think about one customer or an internal partner that you might have been tiptoeing around, being a bit too nice. What's the uncomfortable truth that person, that contact, needs to hear from you that would actually make that relationship better? And say it this week. Say it with care, with clarity, but with no apology. And it's a very different way of thinking. I think it goes a lot to what David's been talking to us here. David, a huge thank you. It's been a phenomenal conversation. I look forward to many more of these with you in the future as well. But thank you for joining us.
It's been an honor and a pleasure, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Breakthrough SaaS Growth with the Jasons. If you found today's episode useful, make sure you subscribe, check out our website at breakthroughsaasgrowth.com, and follow us on all the usual social media channels for more insights and updates. And don't forget to share this show with your colleagues who are driving growth in SaaS. See you next time.